Okay, boys and girls, my name is Mike Kelly from AnimatorsForum.com, and I'm going to show you really quickly some things I have new in my new Swiss Army Bones, as well as kind of a recap of how to use it real quickly. So this is a rig. It's a very standard rig. You could do this with a character wizard, generated character. The only thing about Character Wizard is it doesn't generate the target foot bones. As we know, those are very important. You want to put those in, so those are easy to add. But I'll show you one of them real quick just to show you. Just put a bone down here, and this particular bone, if I select this bone, it's called the D target, and the bone that's targeted to it is up here, the D calf. And if we go on the constraints, you can see that it's got that D target as the target for it. So when you move that bone around, the chain that is the leg will follow. And the same thing goes true when you move your root. It holds those targets down, so that enables you to get really solid foot locks, and we've seen how that works. So anyway, and speaking of which, so let's go ahead and generate a walk real quickly here. We're going to generate and once again, the easiest way to do it first is to generate your first step. I'm going to generate this step out here. It's a very downward step. He's very bendy. He's very bendy. Bending downward, and then after you've done that, then we go forward a few more frames and lift that up as he would be moving forward, and he's coming up because this leg here extends up as he moves forward. So you can see it comes down, pushes up, and then of course this leg comes through, because that's how that works. Is that leg comes through, and you can see with using my tools, it's really easy to make those adjustments. Then we got there. And then the last step is when he actually steps down, downward dog, steps back down here, rolls this down, and comes down. And then, like I say, the tools, as you recall, I have my tools that enable us, don't want to move the arm right yet, though. I have the tools that enable us to set everything correctly. So in this particular case, I want to make sure that the root is adjusted exactly the same height as that first one, and that it is. We can see that it is, and move that out there, and that's a pretty good step. It's not a great step, but it's pretty good. Okay, so we have that, and then if we were to hit the mirror process, then and we want to mirror it around this leg here. So now in the new thing, we have a drop down to pick the targets of mirroring, and so we can select them directly if you want, but if we take the targets here and select the anchor leg, we can do other things with multiple selects, as I'm going to show you. So we're going to do that, mirror that, and there we go. And there's our walk cycle, just as easy as that. The only other thing we might adjust is this last downward leg coming down, but that's okay. Okay, looks good. That's how easy it is to do with this tool. Now, I want you to notice one more thing here. I have, in addition to this character, I have this box here. Well, it's a square. It's a rectangle. I'm not really a good artist, as you guys all know that follow me on a regular basis, which is why I rely on Anime Studio to do the work for me. But in any case, this is a rectangle. And what I've done is, if you come over here to this side to take a look, this is just called Layer 2, which is not very imaginative. So let me call it Box, just so we can see that there. So we got Box, and that's another layer that's inside. You notice it's inside these layers. So I'll kind of go through so you can see what the various layers are like here in my rig. But I have a forearm up here. This is downstage. So D is downstage, forearm, hand, bicep, head. So that's all this stuff on this side of the body. Downstage leg, downstage foot. And then you have the torso, which is here. And then these here are the upstage. So the upstage leg, arm, forearm, bicep. So that's all this stuff on this side. And then in between these, I've now put this box layer. And I've attached it to this bone using the tools, the layer attach tools. So if you come up here to the very first layer and move these tools out of the way. I wish these tools were wider. This is one of my wish lists for Anime Studio is I wish you could drag this box out. If you could just drag it out just a little wider, it would be so great. I don't know why it has to be 4 icons deep and 4 only, but for some reason that's what the gods have decided, and so that's what we have to live with. But in any case, it's using this So if I come in here and it's the bind layer. So I've bound this layer, this box layer, to this box bone. So that's why when we actually come up here and the character himself moves, the box doesn't move because it's bound to this one particular bone. And the bone itself is not parented to any other bone. We're going to use that in a second. So we have this walk. So he walks over here, and now we're going to have him bend over and grab this box. And to do that, we will just, once again, use our tools. So I think I'm going to have him stand up a little bit first. He's going to stand up next to the box. I'm going to come back to my Swiss Army bones. He's going to stand close to this box here. Bring this foot over here, maybe. And then he's going to, at that point, I'm going to put a hold key down, and he's going to bend over. Bend over. And bend down a little bit. And then he's going to reach down with his arms to grab this box. It's got to bend over a little bit further. This leg's coming back a little bit. Don't really want that to happen too much, but it's okay if it does slide a little bit. It's because there's not much room for him to be bending over and still picking up the box. But got that. Got that. As we used to always say where I was, close enough for government work. Okay, so got a hold of the box. Okay. By the way, I want to back up a little bit here. As he kind of steps backward. I like him kind of backing up. I actually want to move his arms here a little bit too for the purposes of this demo. So I'm going to swing this arm. I should have done this in the mirroring process, but it doesn't matter. It'll work here too. So he kind of, as he swings, he kind of walks and he's swinging that arm a little back and forth a little bit, a little fey fashion there. I didn't say gay. I said he's a little fey. It's a little different than gay. It's just a little affectation, as we used to say. Okay, so I'm going to swing the arm. So he bends over, pick up the box. Now, when he bends over at this point to pick up the box, what I'd like to do now is I want to make that box attached to this hand. So the way we do that is we select the box bone, and we go up to the bone tools and bone constraints. I'm going to go to, oh, no, sorry, I'm doing something else. I'm going to go to the bone reparenting. So right now it had no parent. So now when I hit parent, and I parent it, I'm going to parent it to this hand. So now it's parented to the hand. So now when the character moves, and I go back to our Swiss Army bones, when he actually moves, the box itself moves with him. That's how cool that is. There he is. He's got the box, and we can kind of, well, we can leave it like that. He's kind of, it's kind of an odd sort of movement, but he's going to straighten up now with the box in his hand. He's all proud of himself. Got my box now, and straighten up there. So now he's going to, I'm going to have him walk forward with that box. So what I'd like to do is use these tools, use these keys that I've already set for walking forward. And a couple things about this. First of all, you can't really do this in Anime Studio. Anime Studio theoretically allows you to copy and paste relative, and if I were to try to do that, it would be a mess. But I'll show you, just so you believe me, because you might not believe me. I don't necessarily believe me either. I'm going to copy those walking keys right there. And now I want to copy them into this position, but I want them to be relative. If I just copied and pasted them, what's going to happen, and I'll show you, I'll do a copy and a paste, is that he goes back to the start. See, what it's done is it started the whole process of walking back to the start. Well, that's not really what you want. As a matter of fact, that's not what you want almost any of the time. I don't even know why that's an option with bones, because quite honestly, it just doesn't make any sense. You never would want that. So what you want is you want it to be relative. You want it to be relative to the position of the bones as they are now. And again, Anime Studio doesn't really allow you to do that very well. It does have that as a possibility, but as you'll see, it doesn't work very well. So I'm going to do edit and copy. So I've copied those keys, and now I'm going to do edit and paste relative. And what you'll see is that although it does some things good, it does a lot of things really bad. One of the things it's doing, of course, is it's pasting relative those hand keys, those arm keys. So don't pay attention to that right now, because that'll happen even in my routines, and I'm going to show you how we can work around that. But watch the legs and the feet. Notice it's relative to the position of where they were here, but it's not relative to how they were walking in the beginning. In other words, for this to actually work properly, it has to keep the relative position of how those keys were actually established here. In other words, this relative positioning here has to be maintained even past here. And Anime Studio doesn't do that. I'm not going to necessarily blame Anime Studio for that. It's a complicated routine. It took me a while to figure out. But my routine does it. So what we can do to paste relative from this point and preserve that nice key movement is, first we need to have an anchor point. We need to pick one of these as an anchor point, and usually either the feet is a good anchor, so we'll pick the upstage foot. So now we're anchored to that. Now if we do a paste relative, then what happens is that the paste relative here, again, don't pay any attention to the arm movements. We're gonna talk about that in a second. But you'll notice that the legs move properly from that paste relative positioning. In other words, this one leg moves backwards, and actually, in retrospect, that probably would have been the better anchor for it. So we're going to change that anchor. I'm going to go back and change the anchor point to the back leg. So instead of the front target, I'm going to change it to the back target and paste relative from there. So again, you'll notice, see, that the feet stay right, and now he starts walking properly. So everything works properly with the paste relative that way, except for the arms. Now you might say, well, Mike, or if you don't know me that well, you could say, Kelly, what good does that do me if the arms don't work properly? Well, in that case, I have a little key here. It says selected only. So now what we can do is just paste the bones information from here of the bones that are selected. So first we have to select the right bones. So we have to go to the bone tool and select the bones that we want. That lower position of the body is probably the bones we want. And now we got to go back to here. And then we want to do the, from my tools, we make sure we have the target that we want, which is the downstage target selected. And now when we paste relative, now you'll notice that he picks up the thing, and now he walks properly from there with it all pasted relative in there. Isn't that cool? I think it is. Because we didn't paste in the information about the arm movement. So that's how that works. I want to show you one last thing about this in terms of pasting relative. Again, this has to do with the fact that Anime Studio doesn't offer that capability, so the bone tool does. If we wanted to have him step up, let's say there was another a step up here. I should have probably drawn a step up here, but let's say we want to have him step up. So again, we can paste the relative walk motion by adjusting the keys. If we go into my tool, so we're going to have him take a step up. So he steps up on. So imagine that there's some kind of step up here, a platform. So now from this position, we want him to start walking forward. Well, in order to do that, all we have to do is pick that target, which is the upstage target. And then, again, we have to go back, and because we don't want to paste the arm movements, we only want to paste the lower body. So we want to go in there, and we want to go to selected. Oh, it's still selected. Oh, and there's my phone. Hang on, I'm going to keep recording this because this is just a sales call, so I'm not worried about that. So just enjoy the fact that the phone is ringing like that. Matter of fact, I'm going to just hang up on them. And so now we're going to paste relative there. And so now what you'll see is as he moves up here, he takes a step up, and then he steps up to that position and then walks from there. Now you might say, yeah, but Mike, it didn't look like he stepped up properly. That's because the other leg went up too. But we can get around that very easily. We can just go back to again, select all the bones, and we got to just select that target bone. And as he gets to that position here, what we want to do is we want to have that target planted there. So we want that key for that target. So that key is the selected key right there. So we want to select those keys, and then as he moves here, we want to then just paste those in. So we want to do a copy paste. So now he actually steps up, and see, there he goes from there. So that's easy to do. So there we go. So that's what my bone tools will allow you to do in a nice, easy manner. There's no other way I know in Anime Studio that can do this kind of processing. And this will work with any character that you care to do with, as long as you have some target bones in your feet, which I strongly recommend, you can use the character wizard or any of the supplied characters, which all the new supplied characters do have target bones in their feet, and all this stuff works perfectly with them. So hopefully you enjoyed that, enjoyed our phone call as well ringing, and I guess we will see you at the forums. So take care, guys.